Hey friends, Dean here with some exciting news to share. You can now buy us a coffee. That's right. You can help support independent content creators like us by becoming a member of the 3324 Green Room at buymeacoffee.com/3324. Our episodes will always be free and that will not change, but your support at buymeacoffee.com/3324 will help us continue to bring you the best in music and movie podcasting, in our humble opinion. As a Green Room supporter, you'll not only have our undying gratitude, but you'll also be able to vote on which episodes we record and receive other perks for as low as $3 per month. That's the price of a cup of coffee. There's absolutely no obligation, and nothing about the show will change. It's not going behind a paywall. Go to buymeacoffee.com/3324 for all the details. The link will be in the show notes of every episode as well. We'll see you in the Green Room. In this episode, we're taking a look back at an artist tailor-made for MTV. The look, the music, and the videos put him over the top in the 80s. It's Billy Idol's Rebel Yell, coming your way.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Erik Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Erik, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. Another great episode, hopefully, Erik.
Mm-hmm.
We have high expectations at the beginning of every episode, right?
Yeah.
we have the highest of high expectations at every episode beginning.
Okay.
How we end up?
Well, we always start strong. I think, come on.
Yeah. I think we end where we begin. I think so.
No, I agree.
I think so.
What do you think, Robert?
I enjoy everyone I listen to. I do a great job on it.
And that's not because we pay him. He's saying that from his every essence and fiber of his being.
Yeah,
he's bringing that information to you. And if it's your first time listening, welcome aboard. Oh my God, we're so happy to have you. Check us out every Thursday. We've got new episodes that drop. There's we're getting close to 200 full-length episodes that are in the back room. You can go check those out. Plus, with the quick hits and other stuff we've done, there are over 200 episodes of things to check out. So by all means, have at it. It's all free. It will always be free. So go check it out. And if you like it, the biggest favor you could do for us is spread the word to your friends. That is the best thing. If you like music and movies, you like what we're talking about, go ahead and spread the word. It helps us. And we would be so grateful. So grateful.
Absolutely.
And that's,
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So enough with
we're grateful that we get to do this every week, and we're grateful that we have so much fun doing it and get to bring our perspective to things. And that's what makes everybody's podcast unique, is the perspective they bring. Everybody's got
a blast getting together with good friends and sharing memories and stories and talking about stuff we really appreciate over the years and grew up with. And that's the fun of it. If you're into that kind of thing, then
this is the place.
Yes, this is the place.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And our circle widens as we get more and more people. We actually end up getting more and more guests. And we haven't seen this gentleman in a while, Mr.
That's
Rob
true.
Distefano.
Yeah.
Rob Distefano, how are you?
I'm good. It's great to be back.
Yeah.
I miss being on here.
Yeah, we haven't had you. I think the last one was actually I think maybe this might be why. I thought maybe you were mad at us because I think the last episode was the top 5 cruising songs, and I blew up your number 1 by making fun of Big Log, and then we hadn't seen you since. So I figured, okay, maybe he needs a cooling off period. Maybe I kind of,
I wasn't mad at all. I was trying to stop from laughing.
It was one of our classic moments. If you really, I encourage you to watch go to our YouTube channel and watch the video of our top 5 cruising songs. If you ever implored anybody of our listeners to watch us visually, which we don't implore you to do, do it that one, because that one I stepped on one of Rob's picks and he had a poker face that, we should have went to Vegas right after this because he really did not let it out until the very end. And it was a great moment. So it was a lot of fun. So,
he was that. Yeah. such a great moment. You kept it inside. Not even a smirk. There was no tell whatsoever. That was great.
That might be if we had a top 5 moments. That might be number 1. That might be like the number 1 moment on the show that we've had. So
could be.
That's how heavy we're selling it. So go check out that episode. Now, here today for this episode, we're here to talk about Billy Idol. I've been dying to do a Billy Idol episode.
Oh.
Full disclosure, this is going to be a Homer episode for me. You're not going to hear me say anything bad about Billy Idol. If anything, I'll be if anybody's got any qualms about it, that's fine. But I will not be engaging in any bad mouthing of Mr. William Broad.
No,
it won't come from me.
No, I think it's safe to say that this will be a rather positive.
Well, we don't know. Rob, I don't know how Rob feels. He's keeping that face.
He's actually on my bucket list. I haven't seen him live, and I would love to get the opportunity. I looked online. I saw that he was touring Canada right now, so he's not anywhere near here.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's deal with that. He still sounds amazing.
Yeah,
he sounds incredible. For a guy that you would have thought would have been a rock and roll casualty, he sounds fantastic live now because there's a lot of videos. And he just released yesterday, I think, him and Steve Stevens performing Rebel Yell at the top of the Empire State Building out on the ledge. They just released that video yesterday. It's an acoustic version. It's just Billy and Steve Stevens, and they have like these action cams like on the actual railing.
I watched that.
I think it's a drone, and then I think they have a drone also that is getting like the far shot, and it's just Billy with his voice and Steve Stevens with an acoustic guitar, he sounds good. He's a survivor.
I watched that earlier today.
Oh, you did?
And it was great too because the Empire State Building had like a lot of fog and stuff around it, so it really set the mood. It was really cool.
Yeah, and the footage was crisp and clear, like high def, and the sound was incredible. It sounded really good. So, and he
looks good too.
Yeah,
he's aging well. He had some problems, but I think he's like you say, he's pulling it. He just he did all the right things, and I think he's
he did all the wrong
things at the time. Yes,
and then
he did all the right things.
Turned it. Yeah, he wasn't doing
turned it around.
Wrong.
Absolutely, yeah.
to turning it around and really being a survivor and thriving too, which is good. So let's get into the stats. If you're new to the show, in the beginning we give you some factual information about the album or record, movie, whatever we're talking about, and then we kind of get into the commentary. So this was released in November of 1983, produced by Keith Forsey. Now he was kind of a not a huge deal in the 80s, but he was kind of there. He was producing a lot of this kind of stuff. All songs written by Billy Idol and Steve Stevens, except Catch My Fall, which was only written by Billy Idol. There were 4 singles released from this album. Rebel Yell, believe it or not, only hit number 46. Hard to believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Eyes Without a Face, though, shot to number 4. Catch My Fall. Flesh for Fantasy hit number 29, so it kind of fell back. Catch My Fall didn't really chart. So those were the 4.
That's
hit number
surprising.
6 on. Yeah. Weird. Especially Rebel Yell.
God,
46. It's like,
good Lord, the airplay that thing got.
Well, that's what we're going to get at. That's the secret sauce for Billy Idol. This is going to be a little bit of a different conversation about this gentleman. Number 6 on Billboard, and only like I'm saying, it's only but 2 times platinum, which is 2 million copies out the door, which really isn't bad for him, where he was kind of coming from an EP and then they kind of cobbled an album together, and then this was his quote unquote second full album. So
I would have thought that would have been more than that.
Yeah,
actually,
I would have thought too. But again, I think the MTV factor is what we need to factor in. Is his impact? He had an impact in a different way, in a different place than as you can see on the charts. Like, he did okay. Eyes Without a Face hit number 4. Everything else was just okay. Not even 46. For me, Billy Idol. I remember when this album came out. Let's see. as we've been doing recently. There it is. Of course,
Wow.
we got it on vinyl, original pressing, not a re-release, which is great. And then, of course, Steve Stevens is on the back. Steve Stevens is part of the secret sauce as well. He's a guitar player, and he's kind of his collaborator. It's what I think about that, Eric. This kind of reminds me of like John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right. Like that kind of partnership that this turned out to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you say the secret sauce. This guy's an amazing guitar player. I mean, just the riffs that he was able to just the soundscape that he has on, especially on this record, is just it's so catchy, but yet it's so experimental at the same time. And it's not. I don't really think it's meant to be, but it just comes off that way, which is why I love the record. You know how critical I am of 80s, of rock and roll 80s. This is something different. It's this, you got that kind of, new wave thing happening, a little like rock flourishes. And, Billy Idol himself would come across as a sort of a punk rocker. The music doesn't really reflect that, I don't think, in that hardcore sense, even though I think he has that image, but I which was always baffling to me, just sheer, just looking at the guy, you'd think, oh my God, he's so, whatever, or he might've been, in his earlier, but I don't know, but the music, it just, this is a gem, an absolute 80s gem of a record,
easily one of my favorite albums. You made a couple of good points before I kick it over to Rob. You said you used the word soundscape for Steve Stevens, which is perfect because not only does he play rock guitar, but he's also using effects to get different sound, to make his guitar sound like different things. So not only is that rock element there that we need, but like you said, it kind of walks that line of in the 80s of where things were just starting to get like synthesizer-y, everything was starting to be keyboards, and this Rob, this kind of strikes that balance, right? It's firmly a rock album, but it's got like the synthesizers and that 80s stuff is almost like the tinsel on the tree. Like you throw a little here and you throw a little there, but the tree is still rock and roll.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve Stevens is a phenomenal talent. I mean, he's a great guitarist.
Underrated.
Yeah, I think grossly underrated. I mean, he made a lot of the songs. He topped them off beautifully. A lot of the songs that Billy Idol did. Surprised he hasn't worked with a lot of other people. More. He has that.
Yeah, they were kind of locked at the hip, right, Eric? I mean,
I would argue too. I mean, people talk about people like Danny Elfman and composers of like when you watch some of these films, these 80s, these neon infused 80s movies, they're just, I mean, and the music that's in it, that's the sort of score music. And I'm not talking about songs, but this guy could have been, I don't know if he was or not. He
did. I thought you were leading to this.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, Steve Stevens composed the theme to Top Gun.
Did he really? Okay. Well, see, that's not a surprise to me then,
Stevens composed
because
that.
There were a lot of movies that just sort of have that sound, the sort of distorted guitar and the and it just, and then just having that little bit of the shred in the middle of it, it's that piercing heart of it, is so great. And I love that, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out if he did more, and I'd love to see him. That would, and if he did, let's find that stuff, and I'd like to listen to it. I'd like to see the movie that this music might have been a part of, and check it out.
Yeah,
but,
no, he only did.
Just,
as far as soundtracks go, he did the Top Gun anthem, a song in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and then him and Billy Idol did a song called Speed, which was in the film Speed, the title track to the movie.
Really? That's wow.
Yeah. So
wow.
But that Top Gun anthem, that not Danger Zone, but the anthem,
right? The anthem,
that guitar instrumental is Steve Stevens. You also made another point, Eric, about, you said Billy Idol. He seems like he's a punk rocker, but it doesn't seem like the music.
Yeah.
Very interesting you would mention that because, the group he was in was Generation X, which was firmly in the late 70s in that that England punk scene. But he even said, I don't know if it was interviewed at the time, but he said a lot of these punk bands were dismissing Elvis and the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. Like punk was supposed to be the antithesis from that. Billy Idol says, the guys I'm with, we loved that,
They
and
embraced
so
it. That's cool.
that we embraced that as part of our roots, and we weren't trying to shun it. So it makes, so now that we have an album like Rebel Yell, it probably makes a little more sense that this is straight ahead rock, kind of straight ahead rock album, not really trying to bring any punk edges. I think that rock thing was always there. He was just kind of a product of the times that he grew up in when he was in England, right? Because that punk was like the thing. You couldn't be in a rock band in the late 70s, a new one. If you already weren't Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, or Deep Purple, or any of those,
It seemed very short-lived too. That hardcore stuff in the late 70s. It just kind of came and went. New wave came in, and then you had all these other bands. But like Billy, I'm so glad to hear that though, because he definitely, I mean the sort of the charisma that he has, the faces he makes, the lip and all that stuff. I mean, that's definitely an Elvis influence for no doubt. But it's that's nice. It's not that it's he's making fun or turning Elvis into some sort of a caricature or anything like that. It's just it is legit, and that's great to hear.
You're just teeing me up. You're just teeing up this show perfectly. Like we don't just anybody that listens. We a little behind the scenes. We never talk beforehand about anything.
No.
All we do is here's the album we're doing, and we don't talk about what we want to say, what we want to do, whatever. And you mentioned Elvis Presley, and in order to understand Billy Idol, I think you have to be in on the gag, right? That he has this sneer this is a character. Billy Idol is a character.
Yeah.
Right. And he's got like a punk rock look, but he sneers like Elvis. Sometimes he sings like Jim Morrison in the lower register, like when, especially in Eyes Without a Face, when he's going into that, say your prayers, like that's very like a very Morrison low register, Rob. So I think people nowadays, if you're going to get into Billy Idol, you kind of need to be in on it, right? Like you kind of need to understand.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you bring up Jim Morrison because so many songs on this album, I could picture Jim Morrison singing the songs, and I definitely saw that connection there. And and to touch on what Erik was saying before about, like, he came from punk, he sort of kept the look, but he completely sort of, I think, went away from that. He definitely went more towards the rock pop type of thing.
Yeah.
But I definitely saw the Jim Morrison connection there too.
Yeah, I wrote down Elvis meets punk meets Morrison.
Yeah,
right, because I think he kind of hits, and that's the thing too. Is in the beginning when I did the stats, all songs are written by Billy Idol, so he is not this plastic. He has an image, right, that he portrays, but behind that is a real musician. He writes all these lyrics. He writes these songs, so it's not like he's a product of you're Billy Idol. Here's the songwriters you're going to work with. And here's the material, and if you happen to have a song, we'll see if it's good enough. He writes everything on all of his albums. He is a prolific songwriter, and I think in when we talk about the image and the MTV music videos, it's easy to get caught up in that, and then to kind of take it for granted that he's not a quote unquote real artist, right? I think we kind of need to talk about MTV and his effect on it. Because he was like a tailor, right, Rob? He was like kind of tailor-made for MTV, like much like Duran Duran was at the time, right? There was like this group of guys. They had the look, dressed, they dressed a certain way, and the music videos were compelling. Billy Idol was much the same way.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of the '80s and MTV, there's a handful of artists that come immediately to mind, and he's at the top of that list.
Yeah,
my youth, when I think of MTV, he's one of the first people that pop into my mind when I think of that. And, his videos were so iconic of that era. I mean, everybody from our generation knows his videos, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Eric, I think that's what betrays the chart performance. Is we've talked about this in other episodes, the MTV effect. I don't think we've ever seen the MTV effect as effective as with Billy Idol, because everybody remembers like Eyes Without a Face video and Rebel Yell, and just like the imagery of Billy Idol was so strong and it was so central to what he was in his marketing, right? Where we would talk about groups from the 70s that were nameless and faceless.
Yeah.
Billy Idol was an image, right? The name,
it was tailor-made.
Name to everything,
absolutely tailor-made for it. He embraced the new technology. He embraced the artistry, the multimedia aspect of it. That was all part of his whole shtick, I feel. I mean, and working so closely with Steve Stevens, in the music, but also I think he probably had a big hand in how things looked, the music videos looked, how he looked, certainly the people that he worked with, I'm sure he probably had good rapport with. And that's what makes him, that for me, he's not just some like schlocky pop artist. I mean, he really, like you said it, he writes the songs. I think people, I don't know if a lot of people take that for granted, or if it's just, or it's not even noticed, where you might think, oh, look at that guy. He's just, nowadays, you might say, oh, look, Billy Idol, but I could see the artist there. I could definitely see like that he was really, taking this stuff, as seriously as you could take it. And then just embracing the whole new sound. And like he was one of the absolute faces of MTV. Sure.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Easily one of the godfathers of music.
White Wedding. Like if Zeppelin and the Stones, like back in the day on FM radio, they were the staples for FM radio. People like Billy Idol was definitely the faces of MTV. And to launch it and to get it out there and to see this is what MTV is all about.
Yeah, who said it before we went on that he used to do the ads for MTV? Like, I want my MTV, and he probably and MTV used to have promotions too, like contests. And I'm sure he was probably one of the contests, like Meet Billy Idol or go to his concert or whatever. So he was firmly, that was the new kind of the new frontier was MTV, and like I said, his image was there. But the music on this album, there's 9 songs on this album, and this album moves. This album kind of really, even the down tempo stuff, which there isn't a lot. I think he and everything sound. It's easy to pigeonhole. Again, this guy's probably so easy to pigeonhole. But if you listen to Rebel Yell, all the songs are different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and in a good way. Like "Catch My Fall" is one of my favorite songs by Billy Idol of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It's got this great bit. It's a bass-driven song.
Yeah.
Crank Call, a lot of the non-hit stuff on this
deep
album
dives,
can swing. Blue Highway, and another one of my favorites. I mean, like
I like Stand in the Shadows is a great one too.
Dead Next Door, which is the album closer. It's kind of really
that's a really eerie, very ethereal. Like, and again, embracing the stuff that I love, in new wave music, which was that, what is this? Like, kind of, you just questioning.
A little more gothic.
Yeah.
Could be precursor to those types of bands. Right. Absolutely.
Or taking that influence. Cause like Rob, he's not like Billy Idol doesn't have a wide range. Right. I mean, it's fair to say he does not have a multi-octave range. So he lives in a certain vocal area, but he also knows how to make the most of it, right? By growing, he can go low. He can go really low when he needs to. And he uses that. I think he uses that almost the way Eddie Vedder does, how Eddie Vedder uses the lower register to really accent things. And he kind of sings in a mid-range, but then kind of varies, right? I think, with Idol, it's kind of the same.
Yeah. I mean, his singing, it, like you said, it doesn't have a huge range, but it's steady and it's good. His voice is great, and he writes songs, I think, that are perfect for his register there.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't try to.
He doesn't try and Steve Perry anything because he can't. Right. but he can scream like nobody else, though. I got to.
He can scream. He could. Yeah, he's got that rough.
His screams are just like.
But he uses it sparingly, and I think he prefers and I guess Morrison used to call it crooning, right? His own version of crooning, but in songs like Eyes Without a Face, most especially, that is definitely that Morrison vibe of just sort of, it's such a smooth song. Like, I just love that one so much. And I think of the word, what word would come to mind is baritone.
Yeah.
It's pure baritone, even the guitar, like, even, the lower register, like, the guitar is tuned down and he goes down a peg or two, like those weird downward, like, like kind of stuff like happening. And it goes so well, matches so well with his voice and what he's in that lower register. And I just love that. It just adds that atmosphere.
The sliding bass line on Eyes Without a Face. It's like very simple but very effective, right, Rob?
And I love how I love the bridge of that song too. How the guitars kick in and everything, it gives a good contrast, and it's like it's perfect because it sort of it does what a bridge should do. It sort of takes you out of the song a little bit, but then brings you back. And it's a great song. I love that song.
Yeah, it lets Steve Stevens, kind of expand a little bit, kind of go a little crazy, and that song has the weird, strange guitar effect on almost like a laser beam or some type of weird
that
he gets out of it, and then he brings it right back. Everything comes right back, and then Billy is back into like that measured, controlled vocal, like the song returns to.
Like Erik was saying, I was thinking the same thing earlier, that he is sort of like a crooner, almost. It's almost that feel.
Yeah, I love it.
I think he understands. Yeah, I think he, like I said, and there's that Elvis too. Elvis would go into that, especially later in life. Elvis would go into that baritone range because his voice got deeper, and that's my favorite Elvis period, is when he was lower. So you can see it's not hard to see where the influences are. But it's what you do with the influences. Like I said, he packages an image that you kind of think of, but then he's behind the scenes. He's masterminding all this as well.
Yeah. And I don't think enough, I don't know if he gets enough credit for that. Like I said before, it's just, I don't know how many people really know this about him. He's not just the image, he's definitely in it. And I the experimental stuff, I tend to, me with electronic drums and, that kind of stuff. And there's, not nearly enough real drums on this record. They did, on a couple of songs, sure, but it works to the overall sound. And on a song like Eyes Without a Face, most especially, if it's used in the right context. And I think I probably said this a million times already too. That I don't, in that sort of experimental vibe or, atmosphere, that's when the 80s stuff really works for me. And this is one of those records that just, totally, I think of the 80s, this is it, man. This is, and it's such a joy to hear these songs on the radio so much, but, also makes you want to just go. It's very rare that if I hear an 80s song that I want to actually go back and listen to the entire album.
Yeah.
This is one of those albums where I got to go back and listen to that, that's, no doubt. It's probably, easily in my either top 10 or top 5, just great 80s records.
Really? I didn't know. I really didn't know you liked it that much. I really did.
Oh, yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, because we used to have a great time with Bill. I mean, come on, he was one of the artists that you and I used to just, wouldn't laugh about, but we would, just the energy.
It's fun to listen to. Yeah, it's I mean, he would. I mean, around this time too is when the fame got to him, right? And that's when the problems started to occur.
Of course,
right? As he started to really kind of. I mean, there's interviews. He's just plots I mean, he's not. I don't know where he is, but he's not on Earth. He's somewhere else. And there's a story that goes when the record company was going to put the album out, he didn't like the cover. He's like, I don't really like the cover, and the record company's like, well, too bad. And he's like, I'm taking the master tapes. I'm going to give them to my drug dealer, and he'll put the record out on the street, and you won't get anything. It turns out he took the wrong tapes because he was so high. It didn't make a difference anyway because he took the wrong tapes.
Yeah, as soon as I think I read that.
He had a good plan, but the execution kind of wasn't there.
I had heard that story, but I of course, reading up on it and researching it, it was, so, when he says that I'm going to give this to my drug dealer, then that it's just to him openly admit that, and I mean, why it was like somebody knocking on his door, like the cops,
It's like Life in the Fast Lane by the Eagles. I mean, it was out in the that kind of stuff was like you had a drug deal, you had a guy, you had your dealer, right? It was part of your entourage, and that kind of was his undoing because he kind of really embraced that side or the excess really badly after this album, and things were kind of and he was kind of a victim of grunge a little bit also. That kind of hurt him, but on this album, I think this is kind of a like his follow up was Whiplash Smile, which was okay, and then Charmed Life came after that, which had Cradle of Love in it, and so he had some moments, but this one right here is the complete package, and we have to give credit to Keith Forsey, the producer, because I think there's just enough of the gleam on it where it's not too shiny, but enough that it sounds really good because it's still a rock album after all, right? And we he didn't embrace the electronic aspects of it too much where we need to have the sound so artificial. It's still a rock and roll record, and it still needed to sound like that. It just sounds really clean, right, Rob? It's like it sounds like kind of you can hear everything. It's not messy and it's not murky.
And I think that's where Steve Stevens comes back in, because he sort of gave the sound a little more authenticity, I think I read also that they went into the recording studio without a drummer. Like that's why they used a lot of the drum samples, that they added drummers later on. So I think it's an interesting way to go.
Yeah, and especially back then, because there was a lot of programming, Eric. There weren't really electronic drum kits. It was drum machines where you
machines, programming sequencers,
like the Linn drum, like the Linn drum machine. Drum machine.
They did the job. I mean, it definitely it was a tool, and these songs really, if you think about it, would you want real drums on Eyes Without a Face at this point? I mean, I don't know, because it kind of adds. It kind of adds to that overall sound, and like you say. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's not too far gone. It's not. Him especially. Everything has its proper place. It's well balanced. It's well centered, and especially him is right out front. His voice just is loud as it can be. He's not buried in the mix, and it just he's front and center. And I that's probably the best thing about it. Steve Stevens definitely plays his part where he's like wrapping the music around Billy Idol, but he knows that Billy Idol is the instrument, the main instrument, and everything is just so well centered, and that's what I admire that about it. Right? Yeah. Sound
wise, when I know I'm going to listen to this album, I'm always happy because I know it just sounds so great.
Yeah,
that's one of the parts of, and maybe that's for you too, Eric, of listening to some albums from the 80s, sometimes the production doesn't age well, but this one just sounds so nice. It's crisp. It's clean.
Yeah.
But it's a little forward thinking. There was the embrace of the synthesizer and some of that stuff was there in sprinkles, like I said, but like Rob said, Steve Stevens is fully aware and accounted for. And I think we have to give the credit to Keith Forsey for balancing that whole thing of making sure that we're forward looking. It's the 80s and we've got this technology to use, but this is firmly going to be a rock album. And as you can, again, pick out almost any of these songs except for Eyes Without a Face, and they're pretty much they're guitar forward. I mean, Steve Stevens has, like Erik said, he's got the like daytime dramas, got riffs going on.
Yeah.
Blue Highway Flesh for Fantasy is another one, kind of atmospheric.
That one, yeah, I love those little like just those few notes. It sets the mood, and then the chorus kicks in, and you get those those simulated claps or whatever. I just that's another great one, man. I and his voice, like he just owns it. He just gets into it. I love when he starts.
He knows it. He knows.
Yeah. You definitely see the lip curling on that one, and the arm, like
Oh yeah, that one.
The imagery of love.
Yeah, the whole.
You don't even need to watch the video. You just know it.
That video is literally just him posing. It's just literally, Erik, you hit it right. Like if you're watching on YouTube, it's literally him like with the fist just going like this the whole time, or going like this with it, and then smearing. Right, but that's the imagery that we're talking about. Some 40 years later, we're talking about literally 40 years later. We're talking about that imagery that we remember that was so strong. And I went back and watched all the video, Catch My Fall, which not a lot of people saw that video, but it's probably it looks like he was on a bender the night before. It literally looked like he was drunk. Did you see that video?
I did see that video.
He looked like he was drunk making it, because he looks awful.
Yeah, he does. He looks like weathered.
Shadow. Yeah, he's like skinny. He looks like he's just woke up. Like he literally, like if he was acting, kudos to Billy Idol. You did a good job acting. But I don't think it was. I think this was a rough night out. Like that. But Catch My Fall. Yeah, Rebel Yell was kind of the big one. That was kind of, like you said, after White Wedding and Dancing with Myself, like Rebel Yell kind of took those ideas and moved it forward. Because those were two kind of minor hits, Dancing with Myself and White Wedding. Although, again, not on MTV. Those were big on MTV.
Yeah.
But then, kind of when Rebel Yell comes out, it's like, okay, here's the next. We're going to continue to evolve that sound. We're not going to change the sound, but we're going to evolve it, right? And just kind of, and make it maybe a little bit bigger and a little bit beefier.
Yep.
And that's what this album is. It's really true.
Ironically, the first time I saw that video was Friday Night Videos. It wasn't even MTV White Wedding. Yeah. It's like, wow, what is this? Like, this looks cool.
Friday Night Videos. And NBC that was on, right?
That was the poor man's MTV. If you didn't have cable, that's what you had. You had Friday Night Videos, and
or Night Flight on USA.
Yes. Yeah.
Night Flight would be on till like it would go on at 11 or midnight. It was like 2 a.m. and they're playing Nazareth Love Hurts or shit that no one ever heard of. Like at 2 a.m. Like, what is this?
Right. Yep.
Oh God, Jesus and Mary Chain, or all these bands that you never heard of, like on night. We're always on like Night Flight. It's like, but that's of another time.
One thing that always impressed me with him as well, I sort of put him in the same category as like an AC/DC in this sense, that he never really changed his look, and he never really went with the what was popular, like you were mentioning before, like grunge. He never really, he didn't try to do it because that wasn't his thing. He sort of stayed true to the music he does and the look he has, and it's always worked for him.
He did change once, and that was in '93 for his album Cyberpunk, because there was that whole thing that was going on with grunge.
Yeah,
he kind of had his hair in like these weird. It looked like it was spiked, but it was like braided and kind of put up. But he had he met with Erik. You'll appreciate this. He met with Trevor Rabin.
Okay. Yeah.
From Yes. And Trevor Rabin invited Billy Idol to Trevor Rabin's house where his studio is. And Billy Idol was blown away. He's like, "You're doing everything at home." He goes, "Yeah, I have the computer here. I have this, I have that, and da-da-da." And Billy Idol's like, "This is exactly what I've been looking for. Like, I want to be able to do stuff on my own without having a label interfere." And Trevor Rabin kind of introduced him to that. And then after that, Billy Idol became very big into technology. Even Cyberpunk, the album, even though it tanked, it was one of the first earliest known uses of like email to get in touch with people. Think of it. This is like 93. This is like pre-everything.
Sure.
He was using like a lot of digital technology and a lot of internet kind of stuff to promote his album when the internet really wasn't anything. He was really forward thinking in that way. And then he took, like I said, when Trevor Rabin showed him how it could be, he went full on. He goes, yeah, this way I can kind of control my destiny and record what I want, and I don't have to have someone over my shoulder. So he really is an artist, and yeah, he's taking his lumps. He had that 90s slump. Like I said, that album Cyberpunk came and went, and everyone was like, oh my God, what a joke, because grunge was kind of the thing,
Yeah.
So I think we can appreciate. But to your point, Rob, he has always been Billy Idol. He never had did he ever have long hair?
I don't think so.
Question.
No. I mean, he might have grown his hair spiky. Maybe it was longer. He might have gotten a bigger. But to Robert's point, I mean, was it a detrimental that he did
have long hair at one point?
Did he?
Yeah, it was pretty long.
Was this
later on, or around the time of Cyberpunk? So it was kind of longer and a little dready. So it was really down. It was really down to like.
Okay, so he was image-wise, he was trying to.
He went back to what works. Billy Idol in leather pants with no shirt, even at whatever he's 60, whatever.
The scarf,
still looks better than me. Like the guy could still like get away with like not wearing a shirt and wearing a leather jacket.
Oh man, when he showed up in Wedding Singer, come on, you know what I mean? Like, I mean that. Well, Billy Idol gets it. I mean,
the guy's like, move out of the way, Billy. Like,
or I'm going to hurt you.
Get out of my way, Billy.
Yeah.
Talking to him like he's just some other guy like on the plane. It's like, it's Billy.
I mean, he clearly, I don't know if he clearly aged a little bit. I don't know if he actually got any work done. Kind of, I think he did.
He might have gotten a little touch.
He got a little touch up.
He doesn't look,
But I mean, damn, he's still,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I could say it. He's a sexy guy. I mean, come on, he
had the image. He had like the
Billy Idol.
The package. He was a good-looking guy. He was young, punky, but then was able to also deliver this music and also write the stuff. So, I think this is a good opportunity. I didn't mention it in the beginning. We have 3 lies and a truth, but instead we're going to do 3 truths and a lie, because the truth about Billy Idol is much more exciting than lying about it. The facts I have,
great,
or the facts I may have, is much more exciting. So in this case, we're going to do 3 truths and 1 lie about Billy Idol. So for those of you that are regular listeners, get ready. We've done this before. I'm going to read off 4 statements, but in this case, 3 of them are true and 1 of them is a lie. You're going to need to determine. These 2 gentlemen will also need to determine which one in this case is the lie. 3 statements are true. 1 of these is false. I'm going to let Erik go first because Rob is so like ready to do it. So I think he may kind of have a little extra. So I'm going to keep him at the gate a little bit, and we'll let Erik pass through first. And at home, let us know how you do. Hit us up on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook. Or you can even message us in your favorite podcast provider. There should be a little thing that says message me, and you can tell us how you did. So here we go. 3 truths and a lie. 3 of these are true. 1 is a lie. Here we go. Statement number 1.
Okay.
Billy Idol was James Cameron's first choice to play the T-1000 and T2. Number 2, Steve Stevens was in a supergroup called BLS with Tony Levin. Number 3, in the early 2000s, while his career was on the decline, he was approached to replace Lane Staley in Alice in Chains. Number 4, the Idol in Billy Idol was originally IDLE due to his poor grades in school because he was an idle schoolboy. Right? Number 1, Billy Idol was James Cameron's first choice to play the T-1000 and T2. Number 2, Steve Stevens was in a supergroup called BLS with Tony Levin, oddly enough, progressive rock. Number 3, in the early 2000s, when his career was on the decline, he was approached to replace Lane Staley in Alice in Chains after he passed away. Final, the Idol in Billy Idol's name was originally spelled IDLE due to his poor grades as a school child. Erik, 3 of these are actually true.
Mm-hmm.
One of these is not true. What's it gonna be, fella? What's it gonna
They're all great. I mean, you said it. You said it. They're all interesting. I'm going to go with the last one. I'm going to say that's the lie.
The Idol in Billy Idol was originally IDLE due to his poor school grades.
I just don't think that he would have allowed his image to reflect. You know what I mean? Like I don't. No, I don't think that's true.
Okay, so you're going to go with number 4. You're saying that
I'm going to go number 4. Yeah,
that one is false. All the other statements.
That one's false. Yeah.
Okay, Rob, do you want me to read them again, or you have it? You're locked in.
Yeah, just give it to me quick.
Okay. Billy Idol was James Cameron's first choice to play the T-1000 in T2. Number 2, Steve Stevens was in a supergroup called BLS with, oddly enough, Prague bassist Tony Levin. Number 3, in the early 2000s, while his career was on the decline, he was actually approached to replace Lane Staley in Alice in Chains. And number 4, the Idol in Billy Idol was originally spelled IDLE due to his poor school grades as an idle schoolboy.
For some reason, I keep leaning towards the Steve Stevens one, number 2.
Steve Stevens was in a supergroup BLS with Tony Levin.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with that one.
Okay, we've got 2 different selections here, and at home again, well, hopefully you've made your choice as well. Let's start it off. So the first truth is that Billy Idol was James Cameron's first choice to play the T-1000 and T2. He actually it was in a motorcycle accident, a pretty severe motorcycle accident, and as a result, lost the role. And we saw the rise of the actor Robert Patrick instead.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually supposed to have a bigger part in the Doors film also at that time, Oliver Stone. But because of his motorcycle accident, he was reduced to a much smaller role. And if you see, he's got a cane, walking with a cane in that film.
That's right. Yeah.
And if you look at the video for L.A. Woman from Charmed Life, he has a cane in that video too because he was still injured. So that was true. Let's see. The other truth. Steve Stevens was in a supergroup called BLS with Tony Levin. It was Terry Bozzio, Tony Levin, and Steve Stevens, the B, the L, and the S. They had a trio in the late 90s, early 2000s. They put out 2 albums of experimental instrumental music. BLS with the Chapman stick. Boom, 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 boom. See, I almost put the Trevor Rabin statement in there too, because that would have been another Prague guy that Billy Idol was interacting with, and I'm like, this is just too weird. That there's all these Prague connections.
I knew about the group, but I didn't know it was Steve Stevens. I didn't know it was the same dude. And that we'll see. There you go. See now,
because that would have been around the same time that Bozzio was playing with Jeff Beck too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It was 97, I think, was their first album. I think
because I knew of the group, like I said, but now, I'm loving the guy even more now. So there you go. So there's my, he didn't do any score work, but he was in a Prague.
Yeah, 1997 and then 2000.
Yeah. There you go.
2 albums. So. Okay, so we've got two statements left. One of them is false, and one of them is true. What do we want? Do we want the? Do you want the lie? Or do you want the lie? You want the one that's made up? Okay, so the last 2 things we have left are in the early 2000s, while his career was on the decline, he was approached to replace Lane Staley in Alice in Chains. And then the other statement is the Idol in Billy Idol was originally IDLE due to his poor school grades. And the lie is he was never asked to replace Lane Staley in Alice in Chains. I made that up.
You made it up.
Yeah, he was going to go by Billy IDLE, but he was worried because at the time in the 70s, Monty Python was very popular, and there was Eric Idle.
Okay,
IDLE was there, and he didn't want any confusion, so then he changed it to Idol, like Matinee Idol or Star.
Yeah, see,
Idol.
that's the thing. Like the image thing is.
But he was called Billy Idol in school because he was just kind of not that paying attention guy. And he was just going to use that, but then he's like, I don't want to get confused, so he changed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, he was never approached. So at home, hopefully you picked out the lie. You saw through my subterfuge, and I tried to sabotage, as Captain Kirk phrased it. These two gentlemen sabotage. See, Star Trek 6. Another
It's starting
interesting
to
thing
slip. I was on a roll there for a
you
while.
were. I had to get you. I had to even the score.
Yeah.
Another interesting fact about Billy Idol is when he was like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old, his family moved to Patchogue, Long Island. They lived in Long Island for a couple of years.
Really?
And then moved back to England when they had, then they had a daughter and his sister, and they moved back to England. But like when he was a kid, he was living in Long Island. Maybe that's where his affinity for New York comes, because when he became a solo artist, he came to New York City. Like this was the destination, was New York, to kind of notch out that solo career. He didn't do it in England. He said, like, New York is where I need to be. And of course, he gives a shout out to New York and Hot in the City, of course.
Yep.
All right. Yeah.
I love that. Oh, I love that song. Sorry. It's not on this album though. It's on his album previous to this. So, yeah, I mean, we talked a lot of, we did favorite songs, but I think it's worth it to go through them again. Like, Rob, give us like 3 off of this that really kind of for you are emblematic of this for you.
Definitely Eyes Without a Face. That when I think of this album, that's the first song that I go to. So yeah, definitely that one. Catch My Fall. I like that one. It's good rhythm. And I guess I'll have to say Rebel Yell. That's that one always gets you fired up when you hear it.
It's emblematic. I mean, it's emblematic. Just before I get to Eric, one problematic thing that Billy Idol used to have is he used to wear a lot of stuff with the Confederate flag on it. He used to wear a lot of things with Confederate flags, and when he had his his motorcycle accident, he got hit. He went through a stop sign. One of the attendants that was there, the nurses, was an African American man, and he explained to Billy like what this meant. And after that, he said, "I'm not wearing this anymore."
That's a great.
Because again, it's very easy for that to be an iconic thing, like an iconography thing of the rebel flag, and not knowing. And he said, once it was explained to me, and I kind of understood, I didn't really understand, I didn't know. He said, "Yeah, forget it. We're done with that.
That's great.
I'm not going to use that anymore." So,
Really?
Again, he's a good guy. He's a good egg. He's I'm telling you, he's one of the good ones. For like, he's like the hard rocking uncle that you wish you had. Like,
that's right.
Yep. Destroy the place and then leave. So, Eric, what do you have?
Well, I mean, aside from Rebel Yell, of
Uncle
course,
Billy.
I'm that's off the table because it's just but yeah, like Rob, Eyes Without a Face. I love Flesh for Fantasy. I love Do Not Stand in the Shadows. And I do like the last song because it's just so weird, so odd enough just to, it's just not, it's not fast paced necessarily. It's not catchy. It's just odd enough to, for someone like myself to like, there's a little something in this album for everyone. I think, there's like, you got those fast numbers but you got songs like those,
creepy.
Those songs that nobody's going to listen to, right? I mean, for the most part, they're like probably one of like 5 people on the planet that actually dig that track, But
make it number 6 because I'll add it. Especially as an album closer, it's weird. Like or it's like The Dead Next Door. Really,
and again, there's that crooning, right? It's like
atmospheric, and it's kind of
fantastic.
But I'm going to go with The Dead Next Door. I'm going to go with Crank Call, which I love.
Yeah.
Again, because it's got a really nice guitar riff to it, and it's got it's got a really nice guitar work by Steve Stevens, like do no 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 no.
Yeah.
Like really, that's great guitar work and a good vocal, and then Blue Highway. I'm gonna go with all non hit tracks. Blue Highway I really like too.
Okay.
It's a rave up song. It's an album. It's a side closer. And it's just one of the. It's a good road. That's a good road song too. That's probably a good cruising.
Yeah, absolutely.
Highway is probably a good one.
Well, I think it's safe to say, gentlemen, that this is not a bad song on this record at all.
There's no filler. I don't think so.
There's no filler.
No.
I think every song is great. It's just enough to hold your attention, and that's what it's all about.
How about this, Eric? No filler, all killer. I like that.
I will agree. Yeah.
That should be the motto for our podcast. No filler, period. All killer, period. The 3324 podcast. What do you think?
Why not?
Let us know out there if you want us to change our motto, which we don't have one. So if you want us to adopt a motto,
we should put it out there for somebody to come up with something for us.
I just did it. I just won the contest, so I got to pay myself. I'm going to get myself a free shirt. Going to go into the back.
Yeah.
Suffice to say, I didn't realize Eric's love for this album as much as which makes me happy. Rob, I'm glad that you're kind of really into this. I think it's a Eric, you said so many things that were so on point. You said this is a gem, and it really is, because Billy Idol kind of got lost in the 80s nostalgia. A lot of the 80s nostalgia, Rob, is the electronic stuff, Safety Dance and Take On Me, right? A lot of that 80s nostalgia is for that stuff that sounds patently 80s usually. And he kind of got lost in the shuffle there. We forgot how important this dude was to that MTV generation.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has it. For me, it's the grooves of the guitar riffs. It is the rhythm. It is Billy Idol just being Billy Idol, just being the character. But also Keith Forsey too. I mean, worked on Breakfast Club. He worked, and I think of bands like Simple Minds, and I think of those types of, that kind of stuff where, they bring in the background singers and just those hooks, and that's the stuff that I love. And this album to me is that it, but more polished, more, yes, slightly more experimental, but definitely in that lane, I feel. So that's why, but admittingly, it's been a long time since I actually sat down to revisit it, and I had such a great time with it this week. Just, so, yep.
Yeah, I was so psyched. I was like, I can't wait to listen to this album. It's like, it's one of those ones and we're going to implore you, like, check this out. If you kind of think about him and you remember the spiked hair and you're like, oh, okay, there's a lot more to this guy. He really is an artist. He's not just a casualty of the 80s he's not a fashion victim of the 80s, right? Like, you could be easily
right.
The era of Madonna, when everyone used to wear the black bracelets and the lace gloves and everything. Fashion was such a big part of it, and image was such a big part of the 80s that it kind of almost becomes kitsch,
Mm-hmm.
And it was, but Billy Idol there was an artist behind it, and that image was to get in front of you and get you to look and to pay attention, and listen. And we're going to ask you to go listen to this. It's on Spotify. It's on streaming. There's an expanded edition with a lot of rehearsal stuff. You can check that out. But again, 9 songs is all you need.
And if for all of you out there who don't agree with what we're saying about Billy Idol, let's hear that too. Let's hear if you think he's kitschy, if you think he's, we'd love to hear that from you as well. If you don't agree with us, that's perfectly fine. But we're digging Billy Idol. So, I mean, if you don't, like I said, if you think otherwise, and if we'd love to hear why.
And I would definitely suggest to listen to them, like the video that we were talking about before on the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
He did another one that I saw that he was playing at the Hoover Dam.
Yeah. First time at the Hoover Dam.
Yeah. And they're great versions of those songs too.
Yeah, you know what? I'll put a link to in the show notes to the Empire State Building performance, because that one's really neat. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
And if you don't like him and we have your email, I'm going to email you a link to Flesh for Fantasy video, and you're just going to watch that. You don't like Billy Idol? That's going to be your assignment. Is you watch
there it is.
Flash.
We'll fight you if you don't agree.
Flash. And they did a lot of remixes.
Man, yeah.
I think on Vital Idol, which was like a compilation, there was a lot of like Flesh for Fantasy got remixed to death in the 80s, but all this stuff still holds up. So absolutely check this album out. It's a corker, as we say.
Mm-hmm.
Rob Distefano, welcome back.
Pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
It was great to be back.
I noticed you added a couple more guitars in the background, but that Godfather poster is still in the same spot, man. It's still not on the wall. Hang it proudly.
I know.
The room he's in is like the musical version of the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like the warehouse and all. It's just a warehouse with all guitars, though.
There you go.
All guitars back there. That's what it is. And then the shit's getting pushed further back as more guitars come in. So he's kind of like, it's the same way. I think that you just push that back and you have the new stuff in front. So, Rob, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you.
Yep.
Thanks for having me.
Having you again as always. And of course, Erik will be on his comfy couch. I will be on my hard green IKEA chair. We will be here anxiously awaiting till we see you again with another episode. For Erik, for Rob, this has been Dean asking you to please flip it over because there's a lot of good stuff on side 2 on this album. Catch you later.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Erik Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.